Hey everyone, it's Mike from Overground here. Today we're going to be covering the Green Imperialdramon deck strategy that we kind of alluded to in our earlier video. Whereas the blue deck earlier that you saw on the channel focuses more on jamming and getting security hits off your opponent as quickly as possible. This deck instead we've built to focus on the piercing mechanic. And the piercing mechanic, as you may be familiar with, is that when you destroy an opponent's Digimon with your own, you also get to perform a security check. So while the blue version was far more aggressive and a lot faster in terms of swinging for the fences without any fear, the piercing version of the deck is much more control-based and is meant to control the tempo of what your opponent actually has on their field. So whereas blue was a lot more ignorant of what your opponent controls, green aims to be a lot more cognizant of what's on their field and taking care of their threats in real time as they come up. So with that in mind, again, this is our baseline version. So this isn't fully 100% tested or teched out for the metagame that we may be seeing in the near future. This is just something we put together that was quick and easy to kind of take advantage of the baseline strategy. And as more cards get revealed or the meta gets more shaped up and defined, we will be tweaking this accordingly. Also, all the Imperialdramon cards are likely going to be coming out in set 1.5, so as we start opening and cracking our set 1.0 cases and boxes, we won't be able to actually play the strategy in real life until we get the 1.5 stuff in February. So this is just to tide us over, get us prepared, and let's go ahead and get right into it. So for our in-trainings, we're playing 4 of the Argomon. And what this Argomon does is that if the Digimon who his source is underneath becomes active during the active phase, you get +1 memory. So basically, as long as you've attacked with one of your Digimon earlier in the turn, on your previous turn, when it goes into your next active phase, as you untap or unsuspend, as the official term is, everything is now, you'll start your turn 1 extra memory. This will come in handy when you get to, because we do play the memory gainer Ken, which automatically starts your turn with 3 memory. So with a Digimon that you've suspended with Argomon as its source, you're guaranteed to start every turn with at least 4 memory, potentially more depending on what your opponent has left you with as they end their turn. And then the final baby we play is just 1 Minomon. So the Minomon here is it's Wormmon's true baby. It's adorable, but its source is that when it's attacking, the Digimon that you're attacking with gains +1000 DP until the end of the turn. And this really comes into play with the piercing strategy, because you always want to be bigger than the opponent's Digimon that you're attacking. And we just need a 5th baby to round off our Digi-Egg deck. So that's it for the in-trainings. So for our rookies, we're going to start off with 4 Wormmons. So Wormmon is part of the half consistency package with the Togemon that you're going to see later. Wormmon's effect is that when he's destroyed, you reveal the top cards of your deck and you add 1 level 4 or 5 Digimon among them to your hand and put the rest on the bottom in any order. So with Wormmon, if you need to use him as a rookie to evolve into, that's fine. But generally in the early game, you're using Wormmon to kind of throw at your opponent's security. He's kind of a willing sacrifice, if you will, which is very unfortunate to say, because look how scared he looks. But you're going to be throwing him into your opponent's security under the pretense that he's likely going to get destroyed, and when he is destroyed, you'll be able to trigger his effect that allows you to dig deeper in your deck for bigger and better combo pieces. And that's why we play 4 copies of him, so that way we can get to he's a consistency piece. We get to see him as early as possible. That lets us dig for our deck as early as possible as well. So that's that rookie. Next, we're going to move on to, I guess this is kind of a tech call, and this is 4 of the set 3 Terriermon. And what the Terriermon brings to the table is that he makes it so that during both players' turns, your opponent cannot gain memory except by tamer effects. This means that the only way your opponent will be able to increase their memory whatsoever is through things like your standard memory gainer tamers, like your regular original 8 children, Ty, Matt, Kari, TK, Izzy, Sora, Joe, Mimi, pretty sure I've named everyone, Davis, Ken, any of those original ones that if your memory becomes less, they become 2, or if they're 2 or less, they become 3. Terriermon will not prevent that. What Terriermon does prevent, however, is things like Vulcan's Hammer. It prevents things like the combo in the Ragnarlordmon deck, because you won't be able to gain that 3 memory back. It prevents things like Lilithmon, because Lilithmon won't be able to give you that +1 memory. It prevents things like the purple Mimi, that every time an option is played... sorry, that's Tamer effect. That's incorrect. I'm kind of skipping ahead here. But Terriermon will stop any outside sources that would potentially increase your memory. So it kind of gives you a counterplay to balance that out so that your opponent can't just play things for free or ramp up into things for free as well. So that's the Terriermon. We play 3 of the green Agumon. So this one is just here because it's inheritable. Is your turn Digimon gets plus 1,000. Again, that's just for piercing purposes. And then finally, we're rounding out our rookies with Goblimon. He's solely in here the deck just because he's a 2-cost to hard play. So if you need to set up a board earlier in the turn for cheaper, you can just put the Goblimon into play as well. So that is it for our rookies. We're going to go into our champions now. So we're going to be playing 4 of the Stingmon. We're playing 4 copies of Stingmon because he's a consistency card in the respect that every time, the inheritable skill that he brings is that every time this Digimon destroys another one of your opponent's Digimon by battle, you get +1 memory. So what this does is that the end goal of this Imperialdramon strategy is that you're aiming to destroy your opponent's Digimon and keep them from constantly having the ability to attack you on their turn. And what this does is that it lets you continuously play more cards on your turn, because this will combo with the Ken that you'll see later, and potentially with the Agumon as well. You could get free memory upwards of 2 to 3 a turn, depending on how you build your stacks. Now, ironically, this is a case where if your opponent is playing Terriermon, this would prevent you from being able to pull this off, but thankfully the Terriermon that you're playing only affects your opponent directly, and unless they're bringing their own Terriermon to the fight, you don't have to worry about that. But it's just an example of how powerful that Terriermon can be, because we're already playing cards that can accelerate our strategies in the sense that we get extra memory. So that's the Stingmon. This Kabuterimon is to go in tandem with the Agumon that we revealed earlier. Again, it's the same inheritable skill. It's similar, but for every one of your opponent's rested Digimon, this Digimon gains plus 1,000. As I'll see later on in the deck, we're playing cards that can rest your opponent's Digimon as a means to attack over them successfully. So you're building up your stack in a way that your Digimon will be able to destroy opponent's Digimon successfully and inflict that piercing damage. So between Kabuterimon and Agumon, as you build them up forward, you'll be able to increase your Digimon DP by 1,000 increments that would potentially give you stronger outs to what your opponent is currently sitting on the table. And the last consistency champion we play is Togemon. So whereas Wormmon, when it's destroyed, fetches you a level 4 or 5, Togemon, when she's Digivolved, she lets you search a 5 or higher Digimon amongst them. You reveal the top 3 and you add one of the 5 or higher among them to your hand. So Wormmon will take care of the back half of your evolution line, and Togemon will take care of your top half of your evolution line. And finally, the last 3 champions we play in the deck is just Woodmon, just because we need a blocker. So that's it for that. For the ultimates, we play the exact same ultimate lineup we did in the Imperialdramon Blue deck, and that is just the 4 Dino Beamon and the 4 Pyildramon. Now, if you recall, in the Imperialdramon Blue deck, I made a point to say that depending on where you are in your current game state, the ultimate that you choose to go on into changes the outcome of the tempo. I said that Pyildramon is better in the blue version of the deck because it's much more aggressive. It lets your Imperialdramon attack up to 3 times in a row, whereas the Dino Beamon is better when you're facing down a bunch of blockers and stuff like this. In this version of the deck, it's you kind of flip the script here, where you want to see Dino Beamon as often as possible for that piercing ability. You're not going to be having multiple attacks in this version of the deck, so you need to kind of plan out and plot your attacks in a much more succinct manner, because you're not just throwing cards at your opponent's security to beat face. You're deliberately slowing down the pace of the game so that way you can take away your opponent's resources and take away their opportunities. So in this one, your Pyildramon is going to be used, you'll only be able to get maybe 2 attacks with it at max, because we're not playing the blue Imperialdramon in this deck at all. You still have the source where if you attack and the name contains Imperialdramon, you get to make the Imperialdramon active again. So in this case, which again, I'll just spoil the Imperialdramon early, if you do something like this, you can attack, with sorry, you actually can attack 3 times with this deck. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but you attack 3 times in a different perspective. So you can attack once with Imperialdramon Green, and then if it destroys a Digimon by battle, you can use Imperialdramon's own effect that when it destroys a Digimon battle, it becomes active. Then you can attack again, and then Imperialdramon's effect will allow it to become active once more. So, but in this case, instead of swinging into your opponent's security with the free jamming, not worrying about what you're going to hit, this way you can actually clear 3 of your opponent's Digimon at once, and then you can do damage to their security through piercing instead. This is going to combo well with the Flower Cannon that you're going to see in a little bit. And yeah, and then, so it's still aggressive in the sense that it lets you attack 3 times, but it serves a much different purpose. Whereas the Dinobemon, again, you're going to be using it primarily to throw at your opponent's blockers, because if they do choose to block, they're still going to take that security damage. So it's in their best interest just to let the attack fly. And yeah, so that is your main ultimates again. And then Imperialdramon gets the Digivolution reduction buff as well if it goes on top of one of those 2 specifically. So the next thing we're going to move on to is we're playing 4 copies of the green Virus Imperialdramon. This is the secret rare from set 3. So again, we already kind of briefly covered what it does. As opposed to Imperialdramon Blue, who makes every jammer active when it automatically hits the board. This one needs to have destroyed a Digimon by battle once per turn in order to fulfill its condition to become active. Again, it has the same Digivolution reduction cost as the blue one does, or if you're evolving it onto Imperialdramon or Dinobemon, you can reduce the cost by 2. And then it has piercing natively as well. So that is for the Imperialdramon. The last Mega that we're playing in this deck as well is Bancho Stingmon. So Bancho Stingmon has 2 purposes as well to the deck. So it also is a piercing Mega, but it also has a really neat effect where if it is attacking a Digimon with 12,000 or more DP, it itself will get 7,000 plus, and it'll gain security attack plus 2. So what this means is that if your opponent has leveled up to a Mega, and they are currently, you know, they attacked with their own Omnimon, they attacked with their own Imperialdramon, they attacked with their own Shine Greymon, you can go into a Bancho Stingmon, attack into that Digimon, your Bancho Stingmon will go up to 17,000, being able to destroy it, and then, because you've got piercing and security attack plus 2, you're going to be able to take 3 security checks off them immediately. So this is another aggressive card that you can put in this deck that takes advantage of the piercing mechanic, and it rewards you for destroying your opponent's Digimon, and it punishes your opponent for attacking freely into your things willy-nilly, because what playing this version of the deck we've realized is that you're forced to play a much slower game against this deck, because you don't want to leave as many rested Digimon on the table for your opponent to take advantage of with that piercing mechanic as well. So Bancho Stingmon is kind of a cool, out of the blue, comes out of nowhere game ender, especially when you've built up to a really strong Mega, and it kind of forces your opponent to maybe not attack with that Mega, because then they run the risk of not only getting it destroyed, but also losing 3 securities as well. So it's kind of a fearing Bancho Stingmon and playing around Bancho Stingmon is kind of a huge lose-lose when it comes to decks that are building up big Megas. So that's why he's a very good card and a very good addition to this version of the strategy. So finally, we're going to go into our options. So the first option we play is Hidden Potential Discovered. This is one of the reasons why the green version of the deck is a little more unfair, because I'm just going to show a standard evolution line into Imperialdramon, for example, or even Bancho Stingmon for that matter. But if you can set up let's just use any rookie as an example. You can basically evolve all the way up into a Mega for a grand total cost of 4 memory. So your rookie is going to be free under the assumption that you have it played earlier in the turn and then you're moving it up now. Your champion is going to cost you 1, because most of the champions in this deck cost between 1 and 2. The Kabuterimon costs 1 as well. And then you're going to go into your ultimate, which costs 3. Both of them cost 3 to evolve. And then, so that's only 1 memory, and then 3 memory is 4. Then you're going to play Hidden Potential Discovered. And what Hidden Potential Discovered does is that by resting another Digimon, or by resting a Digimon on the field, it doesn't have to be another Digimon, if you would evolve a green Digimon this turn, you can decrease the evolution cost of that Digimon that's being evolved by 5. So what this does is that you can go 1 memory, 4 memory, and if you have another Digimon already, you can play Hidden Potential Discovered, rest that second Digimon, and then you go all the way up into a Mega for 4 memory total for the entire turn. So it's kind of a cool turbo ramp mechanic that is a little bit better than Argomon, because the Argomon line only deals with itself, whereas this allows you to rank up into a Mega using basically any Digimon stack, as long as it's green, because you have to Digivolve a green Digimon specifically. So that's the benefit of Hidden Potential Uncovered, and then when it's hit in the security, you can add it directly to your hand, which is really cool, and it's a 0 cost to play, which is super disgusting. So the only real requirement to get that 4 memory investment into a straight Mega is just having a Digimon on the field. Because theoretically, you could rest the Digimon that you're about to evolve itself and then put the Mega right on top. You won't be able to attack with it this turn, unfortunately, but that is just a way to turbo out your cards and kind of get your engine flowing as quickly as possible. So Hidden Potential Discovered, very good card, very broken. One of the main reasons why it kind of this deck is so appealing as it is, because it gives you a much stronger boss monster options for very low memory investment. And finally, the last options we play are 3 Flower Cannons. Flower Cannon is pretty much a staple in green decks. Main effect for 2 cost is you rest one of your opponent's Digimon, and then the security effect is that you get to rest your opponent's entire board or everything without blocker. This is good in 2 instances, because if it's hit in your security and your opponent flips it as your security, it rests their entire field. Now, as we've discussed, when we're going into our turn, we're dealing everything with piercing. And if we can level up into that Imperialdramon green with the Pyldramon underneath, and your opponent had 3 attackers, for example, you can go boom, 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 deal with their entire field, and then take 3 security cards off of them. And then, worst case scenario, if it's your turn and your opponent has a big Digimon on the field that you need to clear, you can Flower Cannon them right away, tap their opponent's Digimon, and then you can go up to like Bancho Stigmon, for example, attack into it, get that plus 7,000, yeah. 7,000, that's right. And then destroy it, and then do the piercing damage as well. So Flower Cannon helps keep your opponent's Digimon at bay. It also is a form of removal without necessarily destroying them outright. It puts them in a position where they're vulnerable to be destroyed by your own attackers. And then finally, the last 3 cards in the deck are just 3 Tamers, which is 3 Ken. So, whereas both decks can take advantage of Davis, technically, because Davis can search you a green and a blue, I felt that just playing Ken specifically was better for this strategy, because you have other search cards that will get you to your Digimon faster within Wormmon and Togemon. The blue version of the deck doesn't have a lot of search power, so you need to rely on Davis to kind of dig into your deck further. So what Ken does specifically, though, is that, again, it's your standard memory gainer tamer. If your memory is 2 or less, he goes to 3 at the start of the turn. But what he does that's really cool, and the fact that and both of them can actually stack, is that when a green or blue Digimon destroys an opponent's Digimon by battling and survives, you can rest him and you gain +1 memory at that time. So what this allows you to do is that we've already discussed that we can potentially go all the way up into a Mega for 4 memory. Ken allows us to do is that once we take advantage of that piercing mechanic, we can go up to that Mega for 4 memory, attack, destroy an opponent's Digimon, rest as many Kens that we have on the field, get +1 memory, and if we potentially have a Stingmon in any of our sources, that's another +1 memory. So for every Digimon that we're destroying once per turn, we're getting between 1 and 3 extra memory depending on how we've built our stack. And that allows us to play more cards, that allows us to take care of better threats, that allows us to keep our turns lasting a little bit longer. So whereas the blue version of the deck with Davis was much more aggressive, I want to close out the game as quickly as possible, the green version of the deck with Ken is meant to play at a much slower pace, and it's meant to control the game, and it's meant to play cards at your leisure, at your tempo, in order to manage the field a lot safer. So that is it for the green version of the Imperialdramon deck. We will be having a feature match coming up soon as well, where it'll be the green deck versus the blue deck. I also just want to add a quick addendum here to the back end of this video as well. We have made a minor change to the blue Imperialdramon deck, and that is due to a commenter that we will be linking below as well. And he suggested that we take out Vidramon for the jamming Frigimon. We have tested it extensively. We agree with you. Your comment was invaluable, and we have taken your suggestion into consideration. Someone else has suggested that we also play Gorillamon over XVmon. Unfortunately, XVmon has still proven to be very useful in terms of the overall OTK strategy that this deck has, so we have yet to make that change yet. However, in the upcoming feature match that you see, you will see that the Frigimon has been implemented, and that is going to be played as well. So that is that for our finishing touches of the Imperialdramon saga right now for the time being until we get the actual cards to play with. We hope you've enjoyed. Again, if you have any suggestions or any comments that you would like to bring forward to us, please post them down in the comments. We read every single comment. We try to reply to every single one of them as well. And yeah, so enjoy. I hope you enjoy the games coming out soon with this deck as well. Have a great one, guys. Take care.